Hello, little sister. I heard that you and your husband have completed the construction of your home. Excellent. We plan to visit you in June. Show us around your new house. Listening to her sister's voice on the phone, Julia didn't feel any particular joy about the upcoming visit. The age difference of 5 years had kept the sisters from being particularly close. As they grew up, got married, and moved to different cities, their communication was limited to phone congratulations on holidays. They hadn't seen each other in about 5 years or even more. Julia stepped out onto the porch of her own home and surveyed the surroundings. The 6-acre plot with the house pleased her eyes. It was mid-spring, and the warmth from the southern sun was already palpable. The bright green grass on the plot looked velvety, and the flowers near the terrace added vibrant colors. In the depth of the plot, fruit trees were in bloom. The scent of flowers mixed with the sea aroma, stimulating the imagination. The house was just 500 meters from the seashore, fulfilling Julia's long-standing dream. For 4 years, she and her husband had invested every penny into building their dream home. Winter saw the completion of the final finishing touches and the placement of new furniture. Julia couldn't believe her dream had become a reality, enjoying the sound of the sea and the tranquility around her. No noisy neighbors, no urban hustle, just peace, the sounds of nature, and the smell of the sea. Jane was by the apartment building where she and her husband lived with their children before building their house. Her husband had gone to work, and the kids were at school. While preparing lunch, she planted flowers in her small garden when suddenly her sister's call rang out like thunder on a clear day. Actually, Julia and her husband weren't expecting any guests in June. They wanted to dedicate the first summer in their own home to their family. They planned to go to the beach, swim, sunbathe, eat fruits from their own garden, and relax on the terrace discussing the latest news. It was supposed to be a laid-back southern lifestyle. However, her sister's call completely changed their plans. Julia sighed. After all, her dear sister and her family would have to be accommodated. June arrived, and at the agreed-upon time, the sister appeared at the door, not alone, but with her entire family, husband, and 2 kids. "Welcome, dear guests," Jane, Julia's sister, exclaimed, opening the gate and entering the yard. "Wow, what a beautiful house you built. So spacious, this is excellent. It means we won't be crowding you," chattered the sister, simultaneously carrying suitcases into the house. While the guests settled into their assigned rooms, Julia set the table. Once everything was ready, she called everyone to dinner. The dinner turned out to be lively. The sisters reminisced about funny moments from their childhood. Husbands exchanged the latest sports news, and the kids quickly bonded and went outside to play. Late in the evening, everyone dispersed to their rooms. However, Julia had to stay back to tidy up after the dinner and wash the dishes. She didn't like leaving a pile of dirty plates for the next morning. Early the next morning, the sisters' family made a noisy breakfast and headed to the beach. Once again, Julia had to independently restore order in the house. A few hours later, the content and slightly sunburned families returned. "Sister, what do we have for lunch?" asked the sister. "We're terribly hungry." Indeed, they showed no signs of lacking appetite and devoured everything Julia had prepared for 2 days. She hadn't expected that cooking would be added to her responsibilities. "Are you planning to stay for a long visit?" Julia asked. "No, just for a week. We came to the seaside to sunbathe and visit you," replied Jane, getting up from the table. "We'll take a little rest. We're exhausted." And off they went, leaving behind another pile of unwashed dishes. In the evening, after their midday nap, the family gathered to go on a city tour, dragging Julia along. "You know everything here. You'll show and tell us." "We might get lost and miss the sights," Jane said, and Julia had to join the walk to make it less boring. She also brought her own kids along, and the stroll turned out to be lengthy. Later, they went to a cafe for dinner, but for some reason, Julia was expected to foot the bill. "But we're guests at your place. Are you really going to count every penny spent on us and present us with the bill?" Jane protested. When Juliet asked if they'd planned to pay for themselves, by the way, the frozen treats and the carousel for the kids had to be paid for too. Satisfied but tired, everyone returned home and went straight to bed. The next day repeated itself down to the smallest details. "Help me in the kitchen with preparing lunch, please." Julia couldn't resist, seeing that her sister's family was gearing up for another beach day. "What's the rush, sis? If we hit the beach 2 hours later, who cares if we get sunburned? We came to relax. We'll leave you in peace until lunch." "Do your own thing carefree," replied Jane. Julia just sighed. 3 more days until her sister's departure, she thought to herself. "Well, I can endure a bit longer. I won't quarrel with my own sister over a bowl of soup." The remaining 3 days flew by unnoticed. The happy and sun-kissed family bid farewell, and Julia heaved a sigh of relief as she closed the gate behind them. Over the week, her sister's family managed to trample the grass under the trees, playing ball and badminton, pluck half the flowers from the flower bed, and make wreaths for themselves. There was chaos in the rooms, with sand brought in from the beach on clothes and flip-flops. Time to start a thorough cleaning, Julia noted to herself. She sent the kids to spend the week with their grandmother in the morning. Since her husband was at work, she rolled up her sleeves and quickly got to work. In the evening, as Julia and her husband sat on the terrace having dinner, her phone rang. It was Zoe. "Hello, is this Dema? Seems like your cousin forgot, huh? Jane just mentioned that your place is fabulous for a getaway right by the sea. So brace yourself, little sister. We're dropping by the day after tomorrow," announced another relative. Julia's husband suggested not inviting him over, but Julia hesitated to be so blunt with family. So 2 days later, Julia's cousin and his family arrived at her doorstep with suitcases and towel. "We're not crowding you for long, just here for 5 days to unwind. Thought it'd be smart to stay with you instead of spending a fortune on those overpriced hotels. Those hotel owners have become shameless, charging 3 times the price for a tiny room in the season. So I thought, since we're close relatives, we should help each other out." "Welcome the guests quickly," said Doma, carrying in the suitcase. And once again, the routine repeated for Julia. Meal preparation, cleaning, entertaining guests, all falling on her shoulders. Her husband was at work, and the kids were with their grandmother. Not even groceries were brought by the guests, claiming fatigue from spending the entire day at the beach, making it too much trouble to go to the store. In short, hosting these guests at her home, Julia felt like she had unloaded a coal wagon without a break. In July, Julia and her husband went on vacation with their kids. During their vacation, Julia received a call from her husband's brother and Jane's brother-in-law, expressing a familial desire to visit her. "Unfortunately, we won't be home, and we'll only be back at the end of August," replied Julia with relief. "No problem, we can stay in the house ourselves. Just tell us where you keep the spare keys, and we'll stay for a bit. We'll lock up when we leave, and we'll return the keys. We're heading to the seaside for a vacation, so you won't have to spend a big day worrying about us." This newfound brother-in-law, whom Julia had never met, displayed an original directness. "Let me stay at your place in your absence. It doesn't matter who or what it is," Julia thought to herself. The rumor categorically denied this new relative. Julia already understood that all these suddenly appearing relatives were after one thing: a free hotel with full service during the summer season, so to speak. The inconvenience it created for the hosts did not concern any of these relatives. "Well, I'll have to disappoint the relatives," Julia decided as her entire family returned after the vacation. Zoe resumed her favorite household activities, and the flower beds once again pleased the eye with their beauty and a variety of colors. Pears and apples ripened, and life continued in its usual rhythm. But then the phone rang again. "Hi sis, it's Jane. They unexpectedly rescheduled my vacation for September. So I'll come, still catch the velvety season by the sea. Get ready," Julia heard. "Great. I'll send you a list of hotels where you can stay comfortably. It's good you called in advance. Hurry up to pick the best one," Julia replied, pretending not to understand. "What do you mean, a hotel? I'm coming to visit you for a week. You have a huge house. Why should I spend money on a hotel?" Jane clarified. "You know, sis, there's no sign saying free hotel hanging on my house, and there won't be. So if you want to relax, figure it out yourself, without me. During the week you were here in the summer, you didn't help at all. Didn't even wash a cup, not to mention the groceries we bought for the family. I won't mention your children. You've been a guest at my place. Now it's my turn to visit you. And also to relax without spending a penny or making an effort." "That's how it is," replied Julia, and it was clear that Jane didn't expect such a turn of events. "Arrogant much? You won't see me at your place again," Jane angrily replied and hung up. Julia smiled. "Odd, your family feelings surfaced only when you felt you could enjoy a free, all-inclusive vacation by the sea. Before that, you didn't bother," Julia thought to herself and sighed with relief. All attempts by other close relatives of Julia and her husband to come and relax for free were thwarted in a similar manner. Throughout the following summer, some distant relatives would call, attempting to impose their presence. However, as soon as Julia suggested hotels, these relatives mysteriously disappeared. Since then, Julia and her family gained a reputation among relatives as being frugal, unwilling to host family members for a couple of days. Julia heard these rumors, but she was pleased. "I'd rather be frugal than serve a crowd of strangers for free," spending my energy and money without receiving even basic assistance from them. Relatives stopped calling, and Julia and her family peacefully enjoyed the summer season in their seaside home.